Many people are aware of the lower Mississippi cruises between New Orleans and Memphis, but there are cruises further north and east on the Cumberland, Ohio, and Tennessee rivers. In this video, I'll be documenting a one-week cruise between Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Memphis. I'm Bob Bradley from the Pampered Cruiser, and if you're considering a river cruise anywhere in the United States, then we'd love to help you out, and here's our contact information. Our phone number and email is also in the notes below. The first question you may be asking is, why this routing? Why don't I just do the New Orleans to Memphis itinerary? The lower Mississippi may very well be the better choice for you, and we've done a video on that itinerary as well, and the link is in the notes below. For many people, their choice is driven by where they might have traveled to before. However, if you're wide open to the possibilities, the biggest difference on this cruise on the Cumberland and Tennessee rivers is, compared to the lower Mississippi, first of all, the trip is much more scenic. You sail through the Tennessee Gorge, and the river is much more narrow than it is on the lower Mississippi. The lower Mississippi is a great trip for all the port stops, but it is quite industrial in that section between Memphis and New Orleans. Second, there are locks on this stretch of river, which is a real highlight for some people when they do a river cruise. The lower Mississippi, again between Memphis and New Orleans, doesn't have any locks where the ship goes up and down. The specific sailing we're documenting here is also a Civil War themed cruise. Now, in reality, any of the Mississippi River cruises have some element of Civil War history, but this cruise amped that up even more with both the shore excursions and the entertainment and enrichment activities on board the ship. So let's take a look at this journey on a day-by-day basis. Chattanooga, Tennessee is maybe one of the nicest cities that we've ever seen. Because we're here on a Sunday, the farmers market is taking place right on the edge of downtown near the Finley Stadium. It's just a short walk from our hotel. There's live music, lots of food, and craft vendors. The other cool thing in Chattanooga is to ride the free electric shuttle, because you are in Tennessee after all, and there's lots of electricity here, around the downtown area and down to the Riverwalk. There's a fantastic museum and a large art district for such a small city. For dinner, we ate at one of the craft breweries near the Chattanooga Choo-Choo station. Yep, the train is still here, and the station is now a funky hotel. This is a great little city for pedestrians to stroll around in and just get lost in its southern charm. Later in the afternoon, we boarded the American Queen. If you want more information on the ship itself, please look up our American Queen ship tour video in the links listed below. Today is a river cruising day, or a steamboating day as they call them here, and it's a great way to get acclimated to the ship. They've got lots of activities for us on board to do. We're sailing through the Tennessee Gorge, or Cache Canyon, today, so every time you look out the window, it's spectacular. One of the big differences between this cruise, between Chattanooga and Memphis and the lower Mississippi, is this type of spectacular scenery, as well as the river locks that you don't get on the lower Mississippi. We also had the opportunity today to take in some of the outstanding entertainment on board the American Queen. There's a certain romance with being on board a paddle wheeler. Before the advent of planes, trains, and automobiles, these ships were the primary mode of transport for much of the 19th century. And today people line up on the shore to wave to the American Queen as she travels up and down the river. Decatur, Alabama. This week we're on a Civil War themed cruise, and the history of that conflict is very vivid here in Decatur. The old state bank building was one of the only structures left standing after the war, and today is a museum full of stories and artifacts from the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. This is our first day experiencing the American Queen hop-on, hop-off unlimited shore excursions. This is something I wish they would do on the European river cruises. It's much better to be able to spend as much time as you wish at the various attractions and skip over the ones of less interest to you personally. What we did was ride the whole circuit once, which took about 30 minutes in Decatur, and listened to all the commentary that's provided by a local guide, and then we retraced much of the bus route on foot and dropped into the places that interest us the most. There's a fantastic railway museum in town, and believe it or not, there's also the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. Who knew that Alabama had a NASA presence? Florence, Alabama. It seems like there's no shortage of charming small cities in this region, and Florence exemplified this well. Florence changed hands several times during the Civil War, so by the time the war was over, there wasn't much that really remained here. Florence is also well known as the birthplace and home of W.C. Handy, the father of the blues, and you can visit his childhood home and visit the museum dedicated to him and this uniquely American type of music. You can also visit the Muscle Shoals studio and take in the vibe where the Rolling Stones, Elton John, Willie Nelson, Bob Dylan, and others have recorded. Music is very much alive here. Back on the boat, we were entertained in the Grand Saloon by Bobby Horton with songs and stories about the Civil War. Those amongst us that know more about this part of history than me have testified that Bobby Horton is a big deal. He's well known and a respected entertainer. I enjoy both his music and his commentary. I also thought I'd include a little bit of video footage about our sail away with the calliope playing, and if you look carefully, you'll see all the cars and people lined up on shore to wave goodbye to the American Queen and her guests. Savannah, Tennessee. I have to admit, I didn't know there was a Savannah in Tennessee, but you learn all kinds of things when you're out here on the river. Today was dedicated to the Civil War theme of this cruise by a visit to the site of the Battle of Shiloh. In April of 1862, the casualties mounted on both sides totaled over 23,000, which was nearly double all casualties of all American conflicts up till that point. It signified that it would be a long and bloody war. Today, the battle sites are lovely parks with monuments and dedications to the victims on both sides of the conflict. Back on the ship, an historian and character as General Ulysses S. Grant offered a monologue on the conflict and its implications. He informed us that with him aboard, the American Queen would now be referred to as Steamboat One. The Civil War enthusiasts raved about this performance, and even for those of us just looking to be entertained, it was tremendously interesting, particularly after coming off the battlefield earlier in the afternoon. Paducah, Kentucky. This pretty little town sits at the intersection of the Ohio and Tennessee rivers and is only a short distance from the Cumberland River. So it was a major steamship port in the 19th century and was strategically important during the Civil War. Today it's a haven for artists of all types and is well known for being the home of the National Quilt Museum. And even for those not into quilting, this museum is certainly worth a look. And finally, today we disembark in Memphis, and for those that want to experience a bit of the city before they leave, American Queen has a couple of different options for them. The first one is called the Soundtrack of Memphis, and it's a musical tour around the city. We were even serenaded in the bus ride through the town in between the commentary. The amount of music that has come out of this town is truly astounding, and if the YouTube cops weren't going to go and bust me, I'd have Mark Cohen's Walking in Memphis playing in the background over this part right now. We went to Sun Studios, sometimes called the birthplace of rock and roll, where Sam Phillips first introduced Elvis, but also Johnny Cash, Jerry Lee Lewis, B.B. King, Roy Orbison, and Carl Perkins also, to name a few. And you can stand right in the studio where it all happened. A bit further down Union Avenue is the Peabody Hotel, the South's grand hotel that first opened in 1869. Here you can go for a martini and watch the Peabody Ducks. That's every bit as ridiculous as it sounds. Also a ton of fun. Before you leave, you can also drop by Elvis Presley's tailor at the Lansky Brothers in the lobby of the hotel. We also dropped by the church where Johnny Cash put on his first performance, and also Elvis's high school. We got off the bus for a little while at Overton Park to see the Leavitt Shell Amphitheater where Elvis did his first concert in 1954. And no trip to Memphis would be complete without a walk down Beale Street. Depending on whether you do this tour pre- or post-cruise, the motor coach at the end will take you either to the ship or to the airport to catch your plane home. The second excursion that people like to do in Memphis is making their pilgrimage to Elvis Presley's Graceland Manor. Once the home of Elvis and his family, the site has grown exponentially to include multiple museums dedicated to the king and his music. The site also houses his airplanes that you can visit if you wish. However, the feature attraction is still the mansion itself, where each room has been preserved in a different phase of Elvis's life, with his furniture and decorations still on display. Those of us alive in the 70s might well be prone to flashbacks from the wild colors and the shag carpets. Elvis Presley, as well as his mother, father, and grandmother, are all buried on site here as well. You don't have to be a huge Elvis fan to get an awful lot out of a visit to Graceland. Finally, one last note about this cruise on the American Queen. I didn't document the entertainment on board on a daily basis, but be assured it is just excellent. If you like Broadway-style theater, that's available in the Grand Saloon. If you prefer more of a lounge atmosphere, there's a pianist in the captain's bar every night. For the night owls, there's the classic rock duo in the engine room bar. And the house band, the Steamboat Syncopators, tend to show up kind of anywhere there's anything going on. If you're thinking about taking a cruise on American Queen, either on this routing or one of their many other routings, then we'd love to help you out. Our phone number is 1-800-876-0168, or you can give us an email at the address below here. It's bob@pamperedcruiser.com, and all this information is also in the video notes below. Thanks for watching.